Greetings, welcome to the Geoff Matthews podcast, where the rubber meets the road. Tonight I'd like to speak about one of my favourite topics, demand-side response, DSR, sometimes referred to as demand-side management. Now, I've written and spoken widely about this topic over the last few years, and I've also made some bold predictions. One of them I'm going to repeat here tonight, and that is that DSR will touch the lives of almost everyone on the planet, whether they like it or not, or whether they're even aware that it's touched their lives. Why do I say this? Because renewable energy will touch the lives of almost everyone on the planet, from the remotest villages to our densest cities. And demand-side response comes hand in hand with variable renewable energy. If you have one, you almost inevitably have to have the other. And what is demand-side management? In its most rudimentary form, it's the consumers turning off their power that they're consuming to help balance the grid. What if they don't do that? Well, we designed our energy systems 135 years ago to run as a perfectly imbalanced system. So the amount of active power generated must be exactly equal to the amount of active power consumed. If it's not, we get overgeneration and we get things blowing up, transformers, TVs, whatever. And if we don't get enough power, we have blackouts. And so how have we managed this until now? Well, we've managed it with a device, a industrial age device, the steam valve. So our fossil fuel power plants, mainly coal, but also oil and gas. They boil water and steam turns the turbines, and they open and close the steam valve, and they can turn the turbines faster or slower. And so that keeps the amount of power in the grid equal. But as we move to renewable energy, especially variable renewable energy, and that is wind and solar, then we don't have a steam valve involved. Those power, the power is generated, flows directly into the grid. And that means that we don't have anything to balance the grid. And it means, so how are we going to balance it? At the moment, we're putting some gas in, and the gas kicks in when there's too much demand, and we turn it off when there's not enough. And there is some batteries in the grid. But if you look at what's needed going forward, the IEA predict that 25% of all our energy storage will be in demand-side response. They're saying another 25% will be in batteries. It's leaving 50% into long-term energy storage, such as pump hydro, and maybe even some short-term frequency response stuff like flywheels and other. There's a number of other technologies that can give an instant frequency response. Now. And so the 25% that's required to be on the demand side. The demand side is the consumer side. Now, in its rudimentary form, it's consumers switching things off if the demand in the grid is too high. Now, we're not used to that. We're used to just turning on the power lights and cooking when we want to, and our businesses have been designed to run on constant power. A colleague of mine in Australia, Craig Facey, said to me once, he said, and I hope to interview Craig in the next few weeks, he said to me, everything that's been designed to run on constant power will need to be redesigned. And that means just about everything. So we have to reinvent just about everything that's designed to run on constant power, because constant power is going to be expensive. That's the thing, because that's going to be the most expensive. If you're able to vary your power, you're able to use more electricity when it's cheap, when it's plentiful in the grid, and when it's not plentiful, you'll turn things off or even turn them down. And on a household level, that means compressors and refrigerators, your swimming pool pumps. You will just, and also you'll need to turn those off when the demand in the grid is too high, and use it when the demand's low. You will also have, hopefully coming very soon, smart homes. So when you're at work and you've plugged in your electric car at work, it's bought and sold power during the day for you, and you might even get the ride home for free because if it's made money doing that. And then you'll come home and you'll turn on the lights and you'll keep going. You won't notice, but it'll be running off your household battery, which may have bought and sold power during the day, and your electricity that night might be free because it picked up some power when it was zero priced or even negatively priced, and then it gave some back to the grid when it was high priced. And so that will be you won't know it and you won't feel it, but your lives will be touched by demand side response. On an industrial level, it means this reinvention of not only the machines that we operate, but also of our industrial process and our thinking about things. And I'll give you a good example. I gave a speech in Brussels last year, and the last slide was a picture of a washing machine control panel. And everybody was sitting there very puzzled. And I said, does anyone know why I've put this up? And of course, nobody did. And I said, well, that washing machine's got the ability to program it to come on in 6, 9 or 12 hours time. So that means the washing machine manufacturer has given the consumer the ability to use the washing machine and consume the power at its cheapest possible price. And that may be in the middle of the night, it may be in the middle of the afternoon, whatever grid and whatever deal you can get. But the washing machine manufacturers know that it's important for the consumer to be able to set the program, and the washing machine will run at some stage when the power's cheap. But I talked to the chief engineer of the company that manufactured the washing machines, and he said their factory isn't geared up to that. So even though they understand that demand side response is important for the consumer, their factory is not designed. It's not designed to turn things off. Now, what will happen and what needs to happen is that, let's say in the deepest, darkest winter of a European winter, 3 weeks, no sunshine, no wind, deep winter frosts, snow covering everything. Are we going to run like we normally are with variable renewable energy? No. The businesses will have to switch off or be forced to switch off. And in Australia, in peak summer, the pricing will make industry and businesses modulate down. So why not plan for it? Why not plan for the downtime of that factory or that business to do maintenance on equipment, be in midsummer or midwinter? Why not make more in spring and autumn? And if you're making washing machines, you could be making washing machine lids or frames, and you can make more when the variable renewable energy is plentiful, and you can then use that and not have to use that energy when it's at peak power or peak season. So this modulation can happen from hour to hour, minute to minute. It can happen from morning and night. It can happen. In Europe, there's not enough power in the 5 days in the middle of the week, but they've got too much on the weekends. And so the modulation for them might be businesses actually running on the weekends rather than running during peak hours during the week. And it also makes us examine the economics of our processes. So some of the old economic paradigms won't make sense. Now, we went for a just-in-time manufacturing paradigm, and we all know where that got us when COVID hit. But what it was is that was most economically viable. But if you start to take and that whole system ran on cheap fossil fuels and plentiful fossil fuels. If you're looking at variable renewable energy and the fluctuation of energy the fluctuation of prices will be from negative, where you're being paid to use it, to extremely high. And think how high, well, think about what the Russian gas crisis did to the spot prices in Europe. Think of the spot prices that a few outages in Australia happened last year and even here in New Zealand. So so those wild swings, they won't be good for business. Business can't plan on those wild swings, but it can plan for being responsive to that demand and that pricing in the grid, and changing its processes. And that may be, the paradigm where you have one machine and you run it 24 hours a day at full capacity may actually not make sense. If you could have two machines and run them both at full capacity for certain times of the day and then switch them off for other times of the day. Now, that's obviously going to vary from industry to industry, but that's what needs to be examined. And two machines might be better than one. And so that's the premise of re-examining our industrial processes and looking at everything that's designed to just run on constant power, because the solutions could be really simple. And they could be off-the-shelf solutions as well. We're not talking. There may be solutions sitting in front of us that, if you sit and you looked at it, you would go, "Wow, there's a simple solution to that." Now, Craig Facey, again, I'll mention him again. He has a unique bent on this, and I quite like it. So, and that's why I'm going to interview him. But he also talks about first generation engineering versus third generation engineering. And what that means is that if an engineer is third generation, and a lot of our industrial processes are, aluminium smelting is a 125-year process. A lot of these processes are really old processes. And if you're the third generation, then all you know is how to incrementally improve what the second generation of engineers did. And they only worked on incrementally improving what the first generation engineers did. But if you apply first generation thinking, that is, you give a problem to an engineer and say, "Here, solve this," then they will apply a clean sheet of paper approach, and they might design you something that's really simple, that enables you to do things like vary your power consumption, vary your industrial processes, and also store your own energy within processes as well, so that you can not be tied to the demand in the grid. Now, one last thing before I finish on this, and yes, I could talk a long time on this, and I won't. The IEA, in its 2023 report, made one incredible statement, and it said that we need to decouple. The first time I've heard this word used like this. We need to decouple industrial processes from demand in the grid. Decouple industrial processes from demand in the grid. Now, that is that's a statement that's going to resonate for the next 30 years with industry, and either resonate with them or resonate and be a headache with them. And my contention is industry needs to move. We need to move really fast to be at that stage that we decouple industrial processes from demand in the grid, because our industries are going to topple over if they are always buying at the highest spot price and negotiating low power deals, low constant power deals, when we have variable renewable energy in the system. It's not going to wash for very long. So industry needs to take control of its own destiny and help decouple itself, and that will be a significant achievement. And I look forward to this subject really developing over the years. Thank you very much. Good night.